Hey, back with another lick of the week, and I'm continuing the Earl Scruggs low position feel and lick ideas for G, and I thought I would throw some more ideas to add another layer of the onion, as I call it, this big ball of wax we call low position licks. And we've covered most of the really standard vocabulary essential ideas, but let's throw something into the mix, something that goes outside of Earl's main body of licks. These are based on Earl's style, but they've been propagated by players who came after him. So I'm not exactly sure the author of this lick, but it's one that's really prevalent, and it is in Scruggs style. Different variations of this lick, but they all have that standard theme, and they all sound a lot alike because they're basically the same lick, just with a few modifications. You're going to start with a pinch and slide from 4 to 5 on the first string, adding the 5th string as a pinch. Then you're going to play a 1, 2, 3, which is a backwards roll, and then pinch this F note on the first string at 3 with the open 5th. Again. Alright, now you're going to move the pinch down to here, which is an E note at the 2nd fret, pinch 1 and 5 again, and then play a backwards roll, and then of course there's always that extra note, which is the open 2nd. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, or some players actually prefer to play the open 1st string. Here's the lick again. 1, 2, 3, pinch, pinch, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, whichever you prefer. Now, some of the common variations you will hear on this lick is to actually slide from E to F. And I've actually heard some versions where you roll through that entire section and not use pinches. But once you hear the standard theme for this lick, you pretty much know what they're playing. You just have to figure out what ornaments are being changed with the left hand. You know, sometimes pull-offs are put in, you know, hammer. So you can do a lot of different things with the left hand, change rolls up, but they all sound amazingly alike because they have the same premise. Alright, now let's get the old metronome fired up here. Let me again make sure I'm set for right about 100 beats a minute, pretty close to that. Now, again, 8ths is great for practice to break notes down. But if you really want to play this in real time, a better way to pick up on the syncopation and the feel of this is to play it in 16th or double time. And you notice this roll and the lick itself has a lot of mixed durations, which means some of the notes may be 16th, some of them are 8ths, which more complicated licks, which this seems to be categorized as a little more complicated than some of the other low position licks we've done. They have more advanced syncopations. And again, sometimes for these licks it's better to start on the offbeat 1. I threw in a couple of variations by sliding into the F, and then on another variation hammering to the F. And you can experiment with changing some of the rolls, you know, to give it a little different feel. But remember, the syncopation usually falls as you begin the lick on the offbeat, so you're starting the lick in an unexpected place. Like some of these licks we've covered sound best when they're placed over on a weak beat, which is, you know, like 1 and on the offbeat. So I want to practice that. And let's move to some other licks. Now, the single string ideas we've covered, you know, licks, and some of these licks can be intertwined and you can come up with a lot of different variations. Here's a variation on a theme that sounds really familiar. Now what I'm doing here is playing the first string at 2 and then open, and then going to the open second, and then that familiar push off again. Remember, this push off from 3 to 2 is a very common idea that you hear a lot in these low position licks, so this is some redundancy built in. Alright. And then back to that E, D on the 4th string, which again is a common theme. Open third. 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 3. Some players, if speed is a requirement for this lick, I'll actually do a pull off, and that's also a variation. And sometimes there's a double push off, which you may hear as a variation. So let me kind of wind these licks in and add another layer to this onion. And this will be 2 more licks to add to your vocabulary that go a little bit outside the bounds of some of the licks that we've done previously. These will be a little more complex and harder to play, but they are in the Scruggs vein and they are pretty common. So let me fire the metronome up. So add these couple licks into the repertoire, and again, just kind of roll these things around, and you can put rests in there if you want instead of running the licks concurrently, but it's just good exercise, good practice to run these licks back to back like we've been doing in every video so far, and so that you can almost think about in your head before you get to a lick which lick you're going to link up with this. And sometimes it requires modification of a previous idea to inject a new idea, which is cool. That's what you want. So add these 2 licks to the repertoire, and the next video we'll move over into C, fill in low position licks. See you next video. Thanks.